The house stood alone, isolated, forgotten. It was as if time itself had abandoned it, leaving it to wither and decay in the shadows of the towering trees that surrounded it. The mansion was a relic of a bygone era, a silent witness to the passage of time and the secrets it held within its walls. It was once grand, a Victorian manor with sweeping porches and a widow's walk. The architecture spoke of elegance and opulence, a testament to the wealth and status of its original owners. The porches, now sagging and weathered, had once been the scene of lively gatherings and genteel conversations. The widow's walk, a place where one could gaze out over the vast estate, now offered only a view of encroaching wilderness. Now it was a husk, consumed by vines and shadowed by gnarled trees. The once manicured gardens had given way to wild undergrowth, and the vibrant colors of the house had faded to a dull, lifeless gray. Locals told stories, whispered in hushed tones about the mansion and its dark past, whispers of a family lost to tragedy, their souls trapped within the rotting walls. The windows, like dark, empty eyes, seemed to watch you as you approached, and the air around the house felt heavy with sorrow and despair. It was said that on quiet nights you could hear the faint sounds of laughter and music, echoes of a time long gone. They called it Blackwood Manor. The name itself carried a weight, a sense of foreboding that sent shivers down the spine of anyone who spoke it. It was a name that had become synonymous with mystery and fear, a place where the line between the living and the dead seemed to blur, a name spoken with a shiver. The mere mention of Blackwood Manor was enough to make even the bravest of souls hesitate. It was a place that seemed to exist outside of time, a relic of a dark past that refused to be forgotten. I had heard the stories, of course. Who hasn't? The tales of ghostly apparitions, unexplained noises, and the feeling of being watched were enough to capture the imagination of anyone who heard them. But there was something about Blackwood Manor that set it apart from other haunted houses. It was as if the very walls of the mansion were alive, pulsing with a dark energy that drew you in and refused to let go. Tales like these are what I live for. As a researcher of the paranormal, I had spent years studying haunted locations and the stories that surrounded them, but Blackwood Manor was different. It was a place that seemed to defy explanation, a mystery that begged to be solved. But seeing the manor in person, feeling the weight of its darkness, sent chills down my spine. The air was thick with an oppressive energy, and every step closer to the house felt like a journey into the unknown. The closer I got, the more I could feel the presence of something unseen, something that watched and waited. This wasn't just a story. The reality of Blackwood Manor was far more terrifying than any tale I had ever heard. The sense of dread was palpable, a tangible force that seemed to seep into your very soul. It was a place where the past and present collided, where the line between reality and the supernatural was blurred. This place held a tangible sense of sorrow and something else, something unnerving. It was as if the very walls of the mansion were alive, whispering secrets and beckoning you to uncover the truth. The air was thick with the weight of untold stories, and the feeling of being watched was impossible to shake. Blackwood Manor was more than just a haunted house. It was a living, breathing entity, a place where the past refused to rest, and the present was forever haunted by its shadows. Spend one night, they said. Just one night in that house. It was a dare, fueled by cheap beer and ghost stories swapped around a campfire. The guys knew my line of work. They knew I couldn't resist a good haunting. Blackwood Manor, a place whispered about, but rarely visited. Tonight, it became my own personal investigation. As I drove up the long, overgrown driveway, I could feel my pulse quicken. Excitement? Fear? Maybe a bit of both. Whatever it was, I was committed now. The old house groaned as I stepped inside. The sound was almost like a whisper, a reluctant greeting from a place long forgotten. The wooden floorboards creaked under my weight, each step a reminder of the years that had passed since anyone had walked these halls. Dust swirled in the faint moonlight filtering through grimy windows. It danced in the air, creating ghostly patterns that seemed to tell stories of the past. The light was weak, struggling to penetrate the layers of dirt and grime that had accumulated over the years. The air was heavy, thick with the smell of decay and something faintly sweet like decaying flowers. It was a scent that clung to everything, a reminder of the life that once thrived here. The walls seemed to breathe with the weight of memories, each room holding its own secrets. Silence pressed in from all sides, broken only by the creaking of the house settling around me. It was a silence that felt almost tangible, wrapping around me like a shroud. Every now and then, a distant sound would break through, a reminder that the house was still alive in its own way. I walked slowly, my footsteps echoing in the vast emptiness. Each step seemed to reverberate through the halls, a stark contrast to the silence that surrounded me. It was as if the house was listening, waiting for something to happen. Each room was like a snapshot from a nightmare. Furniture draped in sheets, ghostly shapes that hinted at the lives once lived here. The sheets were thick with dust, undisturbed for years, adding to the eerie atmosphere. Paintings askew on the walls, their subjects staring out with eyes that seemed to follow me as I moved. The frames were tarnished, the images faded, but they still held a certain power, a connection to the past. A child's doll lying abandoned on a decaying rug. Its eyes were wide open, staring blankly at the ceiling, a silent witness to the passage of time. The rug beneath it was threadbare, the colors faded, but it still held a certain charm, a reminder of the innocence that once filled this house. I could almost hear the echoes of laughter, the murmur of conversations long gone silent. It was as if the house was trying to communicate, to share its stories with anyone who would listen. The walls seemed to hum with the energy of the past, a faint, almost imperceptible vibration that added to the sense of unease. The house was a living entity, a repository of memories and emotions, waiting for someone to uncover its secrets. A floorboard creaked above me. I froze, my flashlight beam darting upwards. Silence. Then, a sound that sent chills racing down my spine. A child's laughter, faint but unmistakable, echoing from the hallway beyond. I moved towards the sound, each step hesitant. The laughter stopped as quickly as it began, replaced by a low, mournful sob. It seemed to be coming from the room at the end of the hall, a woman's weeping, filled with a sorrow so profound it stole my breath. I pressed my hand against the cold wood of the door, feeling the faint vibration of each sob that racked the unseen woman. Was it my imagination? The house playing tricks on my tired mind? I had to remind myself there are no such things as ghosts. But then, a voice whispered my name, clear as day, right next to my ear. It was a guttural rasp, laced with an icy malice that sent a wave of pure terror washing over me. I stumbled back, my heart pounding against my ribs. I found myself in a room at the end of a hallway, drawn by an unseen force. The air was thick with an unsettling stillness, and each step I took echoed ominously against the walls. The dim lighting cast long, eerie shadows that seemed to dance and flicker, adding to the sense of foreboding that gripped my heart. A full-length mirror stood against the far wall, its surface cloudy with age. The frame was ornate, carved with intricate designs that hinted at a bygone era. Dust clung to its edges, and the glass was so murky that it seemed to hold secrets of its own. I felt an inexplicable pull towards it, as if it was calling out to me. As I stared into its depths, a figure began to form in the reflection. It wasn't me. The image was faint at first, like a shadow barely visible through a fog, but slowly, it grew clearer, more defined. The figure seemed to be moving closer, its features becoming more distinct with each passing second. The face staring back was gaunt, eyes burning with a cold, malevolent light. Its skin was pale, almost translucent, and its expression was one of pure malice. The eyes, deep-set and glowing with an unnatural fire, seemed to pierce through me, freezing me in place. I felt a chill run down my spine, and my breath caught in my throat. A skeletal hand emerged from the mirror's surface, long fingers tipped with what looked like claws. The hand moved slowly, deliberately, as if testing the boundaries between its world and mine. The fingers flexed and curled, making a faint scraping sound that sent shivers down my spine. It was as if the mirror was a portal, and something was trying to break through. I could only watch in horror as the figure opened its mouth, letting out a silent scream that seemed to shatter the air around me. The scream was soundless, yet it felt as if it was reverberating through my very soul. The figure's mouth stretched impossibly wide, and its eyes burned even brighter, filled with an unholy rage. I wanted to look away, to run, but I was rooted to the spot, paralyzed by fear. The room seemed to close in around me, the walls pressing in as the figure's silent scream continued, a never-ending echo of terror. The scream pushed me back, jolting me into action. I turned and ran, my only thought to escape the suffocating evil that had gripped the house. Thunder boomed overhead, as if echoing the terror that clawed at my sanity. Rain lashed against the windows as I raced through the darkened halls, my own panicked breaths the only sound louder than the storm raging outside. Each room I passed seemed to hold a new horror, a fleeting glimpse of something moving in the shadows. I burst out of the front door and into the storm, the rain a welcome assault after the oppressive atmosphere of the house. I didn't stop running until I reached my car, the engine a roar of defiance against the silence of the night. As I sped away from Blackwood Manor, the storm seemed to intensify, lightning illuminating the mansion in brief, terrifying flashes. I could have sworn I saw a figure silhouetted in the upstairs window, its eyes burning with a cold, unwavering stare. The experience left its mark. I couldn't shake the feeling of dread, the chilling whispers that seemed to follow me home. Sleep offered no escape, only a relentless replay of the horrors I had witnessed. The sounds, the smells, the face in the mirror, they were burned into my memory. I had gone into Blackwood Manor seeking evidence, craving proof of the supernatural. I left with the chilling realization that some things are best left undisturbed. The old mansion still stands on Blackwood Lane, a testament to tragedy and terror. Locals say the lights flicker on stormy nights, and the sound of a child's laughter can sometimes be heard on the wind. As for me, I carry the memory of that night like a scar, a reminder of the darkness that lurks at the edges of our world, and the price of curiosity that can sometimes be too high to pay. So the next time you hear someone whisper about a haunted house, a place where the veil between worlds wears thin, think twice before you go seeking answers. Some mysteries are best left unsolved, some doors are meant to stay closed, because sometimes, the most terrifying monsters are the ones we find within ourselves, awakened by the shadows that lurk in the dark corners of our world.